Welcome into the Daily Roto Sharks podcast. I'm Jeremy Conn. You can get me at Jeremy Conn 1057. That's Conn. Joined by Ben Jammin. Ben, good to have you back on here.
Thanks a lot, man. Good to be here, and thanks for hosting.
Yeah, you've got some announcements to make tonight. Let's get to that before we introduce our guest. Tell everybody what's going on over at DailyRotoSharks.com.
All right. Well, one thing I'd like to say is we've partnered up with In-Game Fantasy, which is fanamana.com. We're going to be putting out free rolls and featured games with them on their new app. It's a DFS site and application that you could download for your phone, and it's playing the games while the games are going on. So instead of making your DFS lineups before lock, you actually make them during the game. So it's very interesting, and I think it's the new wave of DFS it's going to be playing. Another thing is we've embedded the sheets onto the site, so they're fully functional now on there. If you wanted to use them on the site, it's better for mobile as well, and that's something that I'm really proud to announce. And also, since we're 25% through the season, we've lowered our pricing. So the cheat sheets went from 150 to 100 for the season, and they went from 30 to 20 monthly, 15 to 10 weekly, and still $2 a day. So just a quick couple announcements, and let's get started and introduce our guest.
Yeah, it's the birthday boy. The chosen one's back with us again, man. Happy birthday. How you doing today?
Good, man. It's good to see you guys. I celebrated last night, so I'm not like a big of a loser. I'm doing a podcast with you guys on my birthday night, but I went out. I like, doing the whole, it's midnight, it's my birthday thing. So did that, and yeah, it was a fun. It's been a fun week since I last saw you guys, and ready to get into this big Tuesday night slate we got here.
All right, well, let's dive right into it because we got a big slate to go through, 15 games to talk about. Let's start with the Giants and the Cubbies. Thank God. Well, I don't want to say thank God. Maybe you did like the wind, but it doesn't look like the wind's finally blowing out in Chicago. It's been strange weather there. It's I got Lester versus Cueto here. Give me your thoughts, Ben, on if you like either one of these pitchers in this particular matchup. I don't have an implied run total just yet on these games. There is some weather to watch out for on the Tuesday slate. We'll get to that in some of the matchups. But your thought on the Cubs and Giants?
Yeah, well, we talked about Lester last time you were on the podcast, and he did okay. He hasn't really shown much upside. And going against the Giants, they haven't really had a high K rate, but they really haven't been hitting the ball well at all. So I think he's in play if you want to use him as kind of a high floor option, but I think he's lost a little bit of his upside. And so even though they're heating up and hit a bunch of home runs tonight, it looks like I'd be interested in Lester as a pitcher, and maybe some one-offs in Schwarber, Rizzo, and maybe Zobrist tomorrow, or Ian Happ, a couple of the Cubs bats, but I'm not really on anyone on the San Francisco side.
Yeah, they finally got Ian Happ's number back up there a little bit. As it was like a free block there for a while on FanDuel. Josh, give me your take as you look at anything from the Giants, Cubs starting pitcher. As you said, Cueto, Lester, you got two studs there.
Yeah, this one's kind of a fade for me. You got not really looking to have Cueto or Hendricks as my pitcher. These are both two pesky offenses. Even though the Giants are in last place right now, it's still a pesky offense that I really don't want my pitcher going up against. But I'm not really wild about either pitcher. So I'm sorry to start off that way, but I'm not real wild about this game in general.
Cool. We'll move on.
But if the wind is blowing out, that could be a thing, right? Because we've had some windy games in the Windy City that have been blowing home run balls out. So I would be.
They're both good pitchers, though. They're both good pitchers. Neither of them should have high upside in this matchup. So, like I said, I would rather have Lester, at Cueto's price. So I'm probably not going to be on him, but I think you can consider him just for if you're looking for that 30.
FanDuel says Kyle Hendricks. Did something change?
You got I got Lester here on.
I see Lester.
Yeah. Well, we've had this happen a couple times, so I guess we'll wait and see what the official line is. Let's see if I see anything else on here. That
FanDuel thinks that Kyle Hendricks is pitching tomorrow, but they've been wrong before.
All right.
That's very interesting because I see on 2 different websites that they have Lester. So
if you go to FanDuel, it's got Kyle Hendricks versus Johnny Cueto. He's right there as a starting pitcher.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Yeah, interesting. All right, so I mean, let's just assume that it's going to be Hendricks. That's weird that some of the sites have Lester starting.
And I don't know what the deal is there because the one thing I always go to the gambling sites because usually they're not going to put out the wrong pitcher. They'll just leave it TBD on most situations. They've got Lester too, so we've fallen into this before where who knows what it's going to be. It could change come morning. So.
All right, so this game is basically a fade for me, except basically like I don't even know if I want to touch it GPP wise.
Lester and Hendricks are very similar though. They're both too expensive for what they can do. They're both kind of the whole Cubs rotation is just very meh this year. The guys are very similar regardless of who pitches.
Right. I can move on.
All right, let's move on to the Mariners and the Nats. Christian Bergman right now is what I have listed for the Mariners. He went out, I think it was his last start. He just lit it up. I saw a lot of people winning GPPs with Bergman. Interesting spot here against Jacob Turner, another guy that's not going to cost a ton. Are you targeting either one of these hitting lineups, either the Mariners or the Nats here, Ben? And there is a little bit of rain, by the way. It's raining in the D.C. Metro area here, Baltimore. So you're going to hear me talking about it. The Twins and the Orioles and Nats and Mariners. You may get a little bit of rain, but I don't know if it's enough to hold off. We'll have to wait and see tomorrow.
This is a tough one for me. I don't really know too much about Bergman, but just from the looks of it, from his first start, he went 5 innings pitched with 1 K. Second start, he went 7 innings pitched with 9 Ks. So it's hard to get a read on him. But when the first episode we ever were on, me and Josh were talking about how the Oakland A's have been striking out a ton this year. And so I think it was interesting just that he kind of got that boost, you know what I'm saying? But he's not going to be able to get that against the Nationals. They don't strike out as much. And he just looking at his numbers right now, he throws mostly an 86 mile per hour cutter and an 89 mile per hour 4-seam fastball. So I'm not going to be high on him. The price is still, low as a GPP pitcher. It's obviously has some upside there, but going against the Nationals is not for me. I like some of the Seattle bats in Ben Gamel, Kyle Seager, and I'm not sure if Cano's back. I think he's still injured, but if he's out, then I could definitely see myself with some Nelson Cruz. And on the Washington side, I'd be on all the lefties there.
Josh, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with most of what Ben said. Seattle and Arizona are going to be some teams that I really want to get a piece of tomorrow. Do you guys remember it was about a week ago, all the DFS weather guys were just losing their freaking mind because the Washington game didn't have any rain and it got canceled?
Yeah, they were playing the Orioles that day.
Yeah, and the rumor was, I don't know if there's anything to this, but the rumor was that Joe Ross is so bad they didn't want him to start, so they just canceled the game. So Joe Ross, it's just so bad. Let's just say it's raining when it's not, so we don't have to see this guy be a horrible baseball pitcher and give up 1 million runs. So I like Seattle all year. One of my coworkers at RotoCurve, Brian Healy, he's had a couple massive nights this year. He loves them, the Mariners, and they're a good offense, man. They're a really good offense. They hit really well in what's already a hitter's park there in Seattle. So anytime they get a park boost, man, they seem to really like it. So I'm looking at Seager. I'm looking at Gamel. I'm looking at Jeans. Is Jean Segura the most underrated player in baseball?
I love playing him.
I wouldn't say most underrated. I think there's.
If you're not a fantasy player, have you heard of Jean Segura? Probably not.
No, I mean he was good last year.
Arizona
backs.
And he was good in Milwaukee a few years ago, and then he had.
Wasn't he in Milwaukee and then just went to Arizona for like 1 or 2 years, and now he's in Seattle?
Yeah, I mean,
Arizona
he's,
traded him for
it
Taiwan.
seems like he's stealing more than I remember in the past, or at least he's attempting more steals. But yeah, man, he's a good fantasy player, and they have him in the leadoff spots with some protection behind him to bring in some runs. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely in a good spot. I don't know about most underrated.
I think he's one of unless you're unless you're into fantasy baseball. I think that most baseball fans haven't. When you think of great shortstops, people aren't saying Gene Segura. 5 stolen bases and 4 home runs so far this year for Segura. 336 batting average. He's just he's smashing it. So I am looking hard at him and Gamble, Kyle Seager. Love the Mariners tomorrow.
All right, let's go Twins and Orioles here. Again, a little bit more rain to look at. 2 of the better pitchers for each team: Irvin Santana versus Dylan Bundy. The Twins have an implied run total of 4.1 runs. The Orioles at 4.5. Ben, last time you and I were talking about Bundy and hitting some bats, he did get knocked around in his last start, gave up a long ball or 2, and didn't get his quality start that he's accustomed to getting. Santana started off the season on fire. This Twins lineup is really intriguing to me just because, they were talking about it during the broadcast tonight. They tend to go with pitches. They're not all just swinging for the fence. And there's power there with Dozier, Sano, Kenny Vargas if he's in the lineup. There's some pop in that lineup, but, they'll single you to death. They'll take an extra bag here or there. The Twins lineup is very intriguing to me. I want to get your take on Santana Bundy.
Yeah, but Bundy, we were talking about him last time, and we were talking about how he's due for a little bit of home run regression, and he gave up a couple. They're both pitching to fly balls right now, but I've been on Irvin Santana a lot this year, and I think I'm going to be back on him. Looking at the numbers, he's actually been really, really good against lefties this year with a .73 WHIP. 27 hard percentage and a 3.86 xFIP. So the numbers are definitely there against lefties, and that's really who you're kind of worried about when you're facing Baltimore with, Chris Davis and even Seth Smith in there. They have some powerful righty bats, but he's, we know that he's already good against righties. The upside, I think, has been a little bit limited lately, but facing Baltimore is usually a good spot. The only thing I'm worried about is that they're in Baltimore. So for me, I could see using Irvin Santana tomorrow. I could see using 1 or 2, maybe 3 of the Twins in GPPs. But besides that, I don't think I'm going to be on this game as much.
Josh, what are your thoughts, especially on this Oriole lineup against a guy like Irvin Santana? Because you've seen it. The Orioles just posted double-digit Ks. What was that, on Sunday against Marco Estrada, who's a solid pitcher, and I think very similar to what Irvin Santana brings to the table. And they've had a couple double-digit strikeout games as well.
I worry about Santana's strikeout upside. The most he's look at this. He struck out 3 the last game, 4 before that, 4 before that. I've seen Santana pitch live about 10 times, and it's ground out, single, ground out, and the very occasional strikeout. So he has flashed upside. Ben was talking about it. It was it's funny, and this is why I respect Ben. Earlier this season, everyone's saying Santana's pitching over his head. He's not this good. He's not this good. But Ben was playing, and when all the math nerds were saying that regression's coming, and he put up some nice scores, man. 61 FanDuel points, 49 FanDuel points, 46 FanDuel points. So I'm kind of somewhere in between Ben and everyone else, I guess. I don't think he's as bad as everyone is saying. I think he obviously made some improvements. He was a slightly above average pitcher, and I think he's become better. But I'm not buying into being an ace going into Baltimore, which is a hitter's paradise against a damn good offense. I won't be on him. I am much more interested in the Minnesota bats here because I think that Bundy's a fraud.
Right. And yeah, that definitely plays along with what we were saying last time about how Bundy's due for regression. And don't get me wrong, I thought that Santana was due for regression. At the time, I forget what matchup it was. I think it was
White
against
Sox, where he put up 61 points, I think.
Huh?
He was like 5% owned, even though he was in hot form going up against the White Sox. You're the only guy that I know that played Irwin that night. He had 61 FanDuel points.
Yeah, he really crushed it. And I was talking about how he had innings pitched upside, and he was really just getting a lot of ground balls, keeping people from hitting it hard on both sides of the plate. And one of the things that you have to notice with him is he is starting to pitch a little bit more fly balls. You're seeing that the regression is starting to come. And while I did admit that that it was coming, I didn't think it was going to be as sharp as everyone else said it was. So I was definitely on him for a few weeks. To me, he's nothing more than a GPP play because we know he does have upside and he does go a decent amount of innings, but I do want a little bit more strikeout upside, like you were saying. So I am on some of the Minnesota bats. I'm on Irvin Santana. Vegas likes Baltimore more. I think this is one of the times that in GPPs I'd prefer to go against it, hoping that Irvin Santana limits the lefties' big bats and he could get the guys like Adam Jones and Trumbo to ground out because they're either going to be striking out or swinging for the fences anyway.
Yeah, interesting enough. I mean, Jones hit a home run tonight, and he just broke the Orioles record at Camden Yards. Orioles had the best home record in baseball, and the Twins just came in and dropped 12. When actually it was 14, I think, when it finished.
Yeah.
Moving on to Royals and Yankees because
did we hit on the Minnesota bats that we like? Because this is one of my favorite teams tonight.
Oh, go ahead.
Go for it.
Sano. I mean, Sano's one of the best pure hitters. I mean, this guy hits home runs like half of his hits are home runs, but he's still hitting over 300 batting average. So he's just getting on base, and the fact that he's getting a lot of singles and doubles makes me like him even more for cash. Dozier's been nice. This Kepler kid is special.
He's a German.
And they all. Dozier threw up over, Dozier had a huge game. Sano had a huge game. Kepler all had a huge games. I'm not necessarily trying to, game log chase, but these are their power guys. And I have no faith in Bundy. And who I have even less faith in is his Baltimore bullpen.
Yeah.
Since they've had a couple of their all-star relievers go down, this bullpen is freaking horrendous. So Bundy gets chased out of this game. It's bon voyage to this Baltimore bullpen. The Twins are going to wreck them. So I really like the Twins tomorrow.
One thing I'll say just real quick on the bullpen, because in years past it was a strength, obviously with Zach Britton at the back end. They didn't have to use any of their good bullets tonight, so they'll all be available tomorrow, depending on what you consider good, because I watching them on a daily basis. But Givens, O'Day, and Brock are all available to pitch tomorrow night, and not all these call-ups. I mean, they've made so many moves calling guys up from the minor leagues. They even threw a kid that pitched single A last year. He pitched 4 or 5 innings for him last week. So they're better players. They'll still be at the back end, and it's not like they've been lighting it up because they've been giving up home runs as well.
But if the Twins put up 9 runs in the first 3 innings, they're not going to bring out any good relievers.
Absolutely,
more gas cans. So.
Yeah, and I'd like to add in that one of the things that makes Sano so special is his plate discipline, and he's walked 23 times versus righties so far this year. That's a ton already. He has 8 home runs versus righties, so he's someone that's a reverse splits guy. His price isn't too high, so you could still consider him as a cash play. Like you said, Kepler, even Joe Mauer's starting to heat up a little bit. He doesn't show much power anymore in his career, but for $3,000. You can get him and Kepler for a combined $6,000 on FanDuel, and these are both contact guys hitting righties very hard. And Mauer, he'll get you a couple singles, a couple walks, but don't expect upside from him. So those guys are my favorite.
Mauer's a really nice cash play. He's going to get you points.
Right. All right. Let's see. Now moving on to the Yankees game.
Yeah, it was breaking up a little bit. Sorry. I got the Yankees and the Royals here, and it's a battle of 2 lefties. And Jordan Montgomery's on the mound for the Yankees. It seems like a guy that a lot of people have targeted for his strikeout upside, and this may be a spot where people are trying to save money on starting pitching in GPPs. Looking at Montgomery, I don't know how you guys feel. His whip's pretty high. He puts some guys on base, and that can get him into some jams. But it is this Royals lineup that hasn't been lighting it up. The Royals have an implied run total of 3.9. The Yankees are at 4.7. On the mound for the Royals, it's Danny Duffy, who I was on him last time, and he shut down this same Yankees lineup. Different ballpark. And I think this outcome is going to be much different. I like the Yankees a lot here. Ben, what are your thoughts? You know this team better than anybody.
Yeah, this is a tough situation for me because I like Duffy a lot as a pitcher, as a player. I think he's a better pitcher than most. I've been on him a lot in the past year or so. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs. He does pretty well with not letting people on base. Always kind of goes 6 innings, but you're facing a Yankees team that's just been crushing all year long. They've, especially against lefties. I think for me in this situation, you can go with the Yankees bats. I wouldn't really be on stacks. I don't think I would probably be on like 2 offs or 3 offs, like little mini stacks. But I could also see using Danny Duffy as a GPP play just because he really does have a lot of upside. He can get you 7 and 8 Ks in 7 innings. His ownership should be pretty low tomorrow. I'm not high on him, but I'm just saying like he's definitely usable against the Yankees. Their K percentage against lefties is pretty high. They're all kind of swinging for the fences. So for me, I'm not on the Royals much at all tomorrow. I can see using a couple of the righties from the Yankees for sure, but I wouldn't really use Montgomery. I think he gets hit up way too much, and if there's one thing that the Casey bats can do is get some hits, even though if it's not for power. So
they freaking grind you, man. I was on Team Pineda tonight, and he turned out good. He got like 44 FanDuel points, but Salvador Perez had a 14 pitch at bat against him, and I'm just pulling out my hair. It's just they grind you out. They hit these wimpy little singles. They foul off 18 balls. It's frustrating, man. I
would have definitely been on Pineda, but I think it's a much different situation for Montgomery. I mean, the kid just gives up hits, gives up runs, gives up earned runs, walks people. He's just not someone that I'm looking for.
Josh,
I think it's a bad matchup for both.
Okay. Josh, what are your thoughts on the Yankee bats, and are you going to play any one-offs from Kansas City? Do you like Duffy? Give me your take.
A quick question for Ben. I know we're trying to move through this here. Ben, can you honestly tell me that the Yankees aren't just a complete fraud and they will be under 500 by like after the All-Star break?
If you think they're going to keep up that torrid pace, then you just don't really understand baseball. They're good power hitters. We saw starting off the year, one of the things that I said was, wow, we have Chris Carter, we have Greg Bird, we have Gary Sanchez, and they all started off super cold. You got a couple of guys get hot in the middle. Aaron Judge was hitting way above what his potential. I mean, not his potential, but way above what his average play should be.
Gardner's been carrying you guys too.
He didn't have a home run on April 29th, and now you look at him, he's got like 9. It's absurd.
You know what it is? The way the Yankees are, they're kind of like the Rays, where they're going to put up a decent amount of runs, but they're all going to mostly be from home runs. They're not a string together a bunch of hits kind of team. Usually you'll have 1 or 2 guys who are carrying them for the game. But yeah, no, I agree. They're especially with their lack of pitching, they're just not going to be an elite team for the whole season. But when they're one team that when they're cold, you pick on them, and when they're hot, you use them.
Yep. They do really seem to feed off of each other too. There seems to be. I like Joe Girardi. I think he's one of the best coaches at building team chemistry. He really gets his guys to be a family, and so I'm not going to stack him here. I think I'm not going to play Duffy, but I'm not really going to play Yankees. But right. I do see the case for when you play Yankees, you go all in because they just seem to feed off of each other. When Gardner hits a home run, now Judge is going to want to hit a home run. They really do seem to feed off of each other. But I just I think that they're a fun story. I think the Yankees being good is good for baseball.
He doesn't give up a lot of home runs. So like I said, like I can consider Duffy as a GPP play tomorrow. I'd have to wait till we get through the whole slate to make any final decisions. But, I think that for the ownership that you're going to get from him and the potential 35 to 40 point game that he can put up, even in Yankee Stadium, I think he could be a decent GPP play. And, like I said, I'm not stacking the Yankees, but I'm also not very high on Duffy. But
I would agree. I would agree with both those takes on this game.
All right, let's move to the Rockies and the Phillies. Hoffman was a superior play this evening. You got another young pitcher in German Marquez. Implied run total for the Rockies is 4.5. The Phillies are at 4.1. It's Zach Eflin. A little bit of rain in this game as well. So, again, you'll have to monitor that later on in the day. But, interesting enough, both these teams can score runs. I was looking at a Rockies stack last night when Scotty and I were talking. I said it could be interesting because I feel like a lot of people go away from them when they go outside of Coors, and there's still some pretty good hitters in that lineup. Ben, give me your take. I don't know if you like either one of these pitchers. Neither one are jumping out to me, but this Rockies lineup, Arenado hit a home run tonight. Blackman's been killing it at the top of the lineup. And on the flip side, the Phillies as well. That's an intriguing lineup to try to piece together and maybe stack or mini stack it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not high on either one of these pitchers tomorrow. The thing is, if they were more elite pitchers, then you can use them in this matchup just because, Colorado Rockies aren't great away from home, and Philly, they could either get completely hosed for the night or they can be a spoiler and put up 6 or 7 runs on like an elite arm. We've seen them do that, especially at home. It's basically a pick'em game with a little bit more favored to the Rockies. You should see some weather issues, but I like some players here as one-offs. I could use Colorado as a stack. I think there'll be a low-owned stack, and playing in Philly, it's not Coors, but if there's going to be really low ownership here, I think you could seriously take a look at Arenado, Blackman, and Cargo. I don't know about a full stack, but maybe one or two of them you could definitely do. And same thing on the other side. One guy who always goes low owned but always has a potential for a home run is Maikel Franco. And then I like Odubel Herrera usually just because he has stolen base upside, but he hasn't done anything this year. So there isn't really too much else I would even consider here except for like Michael Saunders.
All right, Josh, what are your thoughts on what Ben was saying about the lineups? Do you like anybody from the Phillies?
Sure. Well, right now, just looking over things, German Marquez is one of my top pitchers tomorrow. We saw Hoffman come in there for $5,900 on FanDuel or $5,700 on FanDuel. He was basically free, and he pretty much shut this Philly team down. What did he give up? 1 run. This Philly team is not good. Maikel Franco has home run power, but I've seen him. I watch way too much baseball. I've seen him just look disgusting at bat. He's looking for the home run every freaking time, and the pitchers know it.
Franco?
Everyone in the ballpark knows it, and he's just like the easiest strikeout in baseball. So I like Aaron Altair, but he's cooled way off. I am jumping all over. I was on Hoffman tonight. I'm going to be on Marquez tomorrow. I think this Philly team is just a wreck, and so I have a lot of interest in Marquez, and all we have to go back is to a really good Cubs team. He put up 8 strikeouts in 8 innings, and this ain't the World Series champion Cubs. This is a really bad Philly team. A lot of interest in German Marquez.
All right.
With that take, I can definitely see myself considering it more. I just, I wish he had more strikeout upside personally. So it's not somewhere I am. He's 8,500 on FanDuel. He took a huge price increase.
Yes, he did.
5,500. So if he was at that same Colorado price that the other guy was at tonight with like mid 5K, then yeah, I'd definitely be considering him. But that's a tough one for me at that price. I think there's just other options that I would use. So I can definitely put him in consideration, but I wouldn't call him one of my top plays.
Let's look at the Mets and the Padres. Again, rain on the East Coast, so keep track of this one. But what's happened to Matt Harvey? A guy used to be an ace, and now he just looks like a shell of himself. Jules Chassin is pitching for the Padres. The Padres' implied run total is 3.9 runs. That seems a little low to me with the way Harvey's been pitching, but maybe you guys have a different take. The Mets' implied run total 4.7. Last game Chassin pitched, he actually threw pretty well. I think I had him in a few lineups. He had a good outing, but he's outside of Petco. So interested to see if you guys like any of these bats. I know typically against a right-handed pitching, a lot of experts out there love the left-handed bats for the Mets. Where do you sit at, Ben?
Man, I mean, I've always thought Harvey was overrated, even when he was going through, that huge buzz storm here in New York. I just always thought he was overrated. I thought he let his ego get to him. He didn't seem like someone who's going to work at his craft, and he's just very hittable. But with that said, I think, San Diego's pretty trash. There isn't much there. They all strike out at a very high clip. If you wanted to use anybody from that game, I think you can use, Schimpf at second base, just because he can hit you a home run there. But for me, yeah, I like the lefties on the Mets. I think that any one of these guys can take Chassin yard. Chassin's a pretty decent pitcher. He's not. I wouldn't say he's not underrated or overrated. He kind of just is what he is. And he has a pretty high ERA, but he keeps the ball on the ground. So I'm not going to be looking for too many home runs out of them, but I would definitely stack up the Mets lefties for sure. Not really too high on the righties there, but yeah, lefties all around for the Mets. I could see them being mildly owned and in a good spot.
Josh, give me your thoughts on that Met stack and if you like either one of these pitchers.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to go one of either two ways for Matt Harvey. He's going to have a Hollywood-like comeback where he, gets his shit together and comes back to his form, or he's just going to get ran out of the league. And I think it'll be the former. I mean, the latter. He has it. He had this was the spot. I mean, he had all that weird stuff with his model girlfriend and missing curfew and making up stories. And then he goes into Milwaukee against a strikeout-happy Brewers team, gives up 7 hits, doesn't make it out of the 5th inning. Then he goes to Arizona, barely makes it out of the 5th inning. I agree with Ben. It's just I thought he was an above-average pitcher that just got famous too quick and just plateaued. And I don't think he'll be in this league. And I don't know. I'm interested in the Padres. I'm interested in Schimpf. I used to love playing Will Myers, but he just hasn't looked right at all lately. So Schimpf I'm interested in. As I dig more tomorrow, I'm sure I'll find a couple Padres that pop to me, because I'm definitely much more likely to target hitters against Matt Harvey than I am to ever roster this fool. So Chassin, I mean, what the heck, man? I had a full Dodgers stack opening day, guys. I mean, Grandal double donned. I was like, this Chassin, this guy is horrendous, and he was. And ever since then, he's been pretty good. These Mets are not good. They're missing Cespedes. There's a lot of strikeouts in this lineup now. You got guys like Wilmer Flores hitting second. That guy has no business hitting second in any Major League Baseball lineup. I know the Mets.
He won't be second against a righty though.
But he's like a mainstay in that lineup now, isn't he? With all those injuries.
Yeah, that's true.
That's ugly. So I would, especially on SP2 sites, I'd have a lot of interest in Chassin. Only 6,900 on FanDuel, and I'm not a big believer in Harvey or his Mets teammates these days. So.
Well, I want you guys to tell me if I'm crazy, because if we move on to the next game, the roof will be closed in Tampa Bay. It's the Angels and the Rays. I kind of like both pitchers in this spot, Matt Shoemaker and Alex Cobb. And Cobb, I think, is on his way back. He had some pretty shady starts at the beginning of the year. Not a high strikeout guy, but he can get you a couple Ks in there. And being at home, I really like this side of things for some GPPs and not a ton of left-handed bats that can really hurt him in that Angels lineup. But anyway, Ben, you give me your thoughts. Implied run total for the Rays is 4.1. It's 4 for the Angels. seems pretty low for both teams. Are you looking at any of these left-handed bats for the Rays in a one-off stack, or do you, the one night I get on Mike Trout tonight, he doesn't do anything, but he's obviously dangerous and can be used at any time.
Yeah, this is an interesting situation. Just to start off, I'm not on Alex Cobb at all. I don't think the Angels strike out enough, and they have a lot of guys who can put the ball in play. But with that said, the way I feel about the other side of the matchup is exactly the way that the sheets are telling me. They like Shoemaker a decent amount, but they also really like the Tampa Bay bats, and that's how I feel. It can go either way here. The one thing about Tampa Bay is that they'll put up a decent amount of runs. They'll be all home runs, and they'll also strike out, sometimes in double digits. So especially against a righty, Shoemaker has a lot of K potential for tomorrow. He's not someone that I'd feel comfortable with in cash games necessarily, but this is a situation where if there's ever going to be a time I would do a hedge play, it would be if I'm using Shoemaker as a pitcher, I would stack up the lefties from Tampa Bay. But besides that, I think Dickerson's in play. He's been crushing lately. He's had, besides tonight, he's had 2 hits in each of his last 5 games. So that's really important for me to get someone who's hot and hitting the ball well. Kiermaier is someone who he gets on base. He has steal potential. He strikes out a lot. So for me, I like, Dickerson, Kiermaier, Morrison, and Rasmuth on the Tampa Bay side. So basically all their lefties. But I also like Shoemaker as a GPP play. Not very high confidence in him, but I could definitely see him having a decent day tomorrow. And I'm not really on many of the Angels, but I could see you going one of the top 3 guys there.
Interested to hear what you think of this, Josh, because looking at the starting pitching here, that's the key. Especially if you're on DraftKings, if you're trying to go your SP1 or 2, but on FanDuel, getting that right one and being able to fit your stats in your lineup.
Remember all these slates? I went on a few shows with you guys, but I've just heard so much bitching on Twitter about, there's no pitchers on this slate. This is so weak for pitching. We can't do that tomorrow night, man. I mean, there are legit 5 or 6 guys that I'm looking at. I want Shoemaker tomorrow. I want him more than I want Jammin tomorrow. You guys aware off the top of your head who leads the show in strikeouts this season?
Who leads MLB?
Yes.
No, I'll let you enlighten us.
It is Tampa Bay with 484 strikeouts. Milwaukee is second at 406.
Damn.
The team has 80 more strikeouts than anyone else in all of it.
I definitely thought you were going on the pitcher side with that stat, but yeah, they, like I said, they strike out at a very high clip. This year alone, the Rays strike out at 27% against righties. So, like I said, they're a team that they'll strike out 10 times in a game, but they might also hit 5 home runs.
How does Tampa Bay have 80 more strikeouts than anyone else in baseball? That's insane.
It's crazy.
That is ridiculous. Milwaukee is second, and they have 406 strikeouts. They're second, and they're still 80 under Tampa Bay. They're going to set some kind of record. So, and Shoemaker's been he's been hashtag decent, man. I mean, he's looking at his game log. He's at 49, 47. He faced a very strikeout happy team in the White Sox just last game. And he'll scatter some hits. He gave up 9 hits and still got 47 FanDuel points, so he knows how to limit damage. I've liked Shu for a couple of years now. You get him really affordable, 8,800. He's like the 9th most expensive pitcher on FanDuel. I have a lot of interest in Shoemaker, and man, if you can duck Trout's bat, you could have a good day against this Anaheim Angels team. So Ben made a case against Cobb. I will definitely tell you, if I have to choose between Cobb for 8,600 and Shoemaker for 8,800, I'm going Shu every single lineup. But that's kind of my take. Ton of interest in Shu. I don't think I'll play Cobb, but I probably won't play hitters against him either. So.
Let's move on to this next game, one of the biggest favorites and the highest implied run total, so it'll probably be a pretty popular stack. The Red Sox are hosting the Rangers. Red Sox implied run total is 5.7 runs. The Rangers at 3.9. It's last year's Cy Young winner Rick Porcello on the mound for the Red Sox, but Andrew Kashner, a lot of fans out there targeting him and going after him in hopes that you get that big blow-up game. And if you have the Red Sox stack tomorrow, and he does tend to have that in a nice hitter's ballpark, you'll probably be sitting pretty. You stacking the Red Sox tomorrow, Ben, and do you have any interest in Porcello?
Well, yeah, to start off, we have to talk about the run total. From what I'm looking at right now, they have him at about 5.7 runs, and Kashner just doesn't strike people out anymore. He used to have some K upside. We just haven't seen it this year. In against lefties, he's not striking them out like at all, like almost no strikeouts. And against righties, he only has like a 12 K percentage. So Boston's going to be on base. They're going to be on base often, and I think you're going to have a piece or two from this game, whether it's Benintendi as a lefty, whether it's Mookie Betts, who's been super hot, Mitch Moreland, Jackie Bradley. There's going to be a lot of spots in this lineup. So for me, I'm looking at the lefties for Boston with one or two of the righties, but I wouldn't overload righties there. And then Porcello, man, a lot of people said he was due for regression, and he was due for regression, and it hasn't really come. We've seen that he's gone 6 innings in every single start this year except one. He's put up at least 24 points in every single game he's played since last September. The guy just does it. He doesn't let up a ton of runs, but he doesn't really shut anybody out. He gives up a lot of hits. But this team really isn't hitting for too much power. Texas, when even playing at home, they've kind of just been singling, doubling, and everything. So I think Porcello's in a really good spot tomorrow, and I would definitely consider using him. Texas is striking out at a 22% clip against righties this year, and they just haven't been hitting for a good WOBA at all. So I could definitely see Porcello in play and using some of the Boston bats for sure. Josh,
you feeling the same way?
No, but I'm similar to Ben, but not exactly. If I had to choose between Porcello at 89, Shu at 88, and German at 85, I'm way more interested in German and Shu than I am Porcello. Ben's pretty much right. He hasn't bottomed out. He didn't become a bad pitcher. He's not in his Cy Young form from last year, but he's not bad either. And that's what we see happen with a lot of pitchers. They really peak, and they hit just the prime of their career. And it was a weak year for Cy Young last year, but
right.
Rick Porcello, he was still a hell of a pitcher. I mean, you go out and win a Cy Young award, give the man his props. But he's not. He wasn't amazing. He wasn't Kershaw for him last year. It was a weak year for the Cy Young, and now he's worse than that. But I'm still not really wanting to pick on him. And these Boston bats are just frustrating, man. Even when they're in great spots, they just let us down. Xander Bogaerts is having a horrendous year. Mookie was hot like a week ago, and now he's awful again. So, and Kashner, everyone wants to target Kashner. I don't. Is there something that I'm missing here? I mean,
he doesn't strike people out. He just doesn't strike people out.
He doesn't get rocked either. 31 FanDuel points, 34 FanDuel points, 25 full FanDuel points. I don't want him on my FanDuel team, but I don't want to roster hitters against him.
No, you make a good case, but he does give up a lot of hits and walks. So like you're getting people on base, and he hasn't let up a lot of runs, which is interesting. But I think there is some regression due there. Someone like him, he's not gonna keep letting all those people on base and not letting them score. So I think that. And at least Vegas thinks that too, that they're going to put up a lot of runs tomorrow. Yeah. So I'm really interested in this, and just one final point about this game about Porcello is he's been really good this year against at least in strikeout percentages against lefties and righties, and he's done a lot better overall against lefties. So if they're his xFIP against righties is 5.76, and it's 4.49 against lefties. So he's done better against lefties, and that's who I would be more worried about on the Texas side. So seeing that, it kind of bumps Porcello up a little bit more for me. I think that Shoemaker has a little bit better chance of putting up runs just because you can get a few home runs out of that Tampa Bay lineup. So I'm a little bit higher on Porcello than Shoemaker.
Let's move to the next game, Pirates and Braves, because both these teams have pretty decently high implied run totals. The Pirates at 4.8, the Braves at 4.9. We got R.A. Dickey for the Braves. So if you want to start breaking down knuckleballers against the Pittsburgh lineup, please do. Tyler Glasnow is another one of these a lot of young pitchers in Major League Baseball tend to come out, and what they do is they nibble, they walk guys, and then they have the big inning. And it's blown up on Glasnow here a couple times. He has a hard time holding runners on as well. They steal against him. Don't know if there's anybody in this Braves lineup, and Ciarte can steal a couple bags that maybe you look at as far as running. But, Ben, give me your thoughts, because I don't think I'm looking at either one of these pitchers, but any hitters for you from the Braves or the Pirates?
Yeah, so I was really surprised at the projected totals in this game. I think it's more because Atlanta's really starting to become known as a really nice hitter's park. You know, we've seen a bunch of home runs there already, and for me, I'm not really on Pittsburgh. There isn't enough of a sample size with some of the newer guys that I'd look at against R.A. Dickey. Like I'd be considerate of Josh Bell because of his home run upside, but I just have a really hard time picking on Dickey because you never really know what you're going to get from him. You know, he does give up runs, but it's hard to kind of pick your guys just because like you see a lot of random guys go off against him. So for me, I really like the Atlanta bats tomorrow. Glasnow is just awful with getting people on base. He has a 1.95 WHIP for the season. He only pitches about 4 innings per game. He just walks everybody. He has no control. He has some K upside, but it's not enough for me. Atlanta doesn't strike out a ton against righties, so I like Inciarte, Markakis, even Kempin, a righty on righty. I think Matt Adams is a good fit for this ballpark for sure. He hit a home run today at bare minimum price. If he's in there tomorrow again, which he probably should be, this is a good matchup for him because it's someone who's gonna try. Just strategy wise, when you have a pitcher who pitches so badly that he knows he's going to be walking people, you're going to get some of those balls where he just needs to get over the plate. And if you throw a couple of those to Matt Adams, you're going to see one leave the park, especially in Atlanta. So I like these lefties a lot there, and they should be able to get to the Pirates bullpen, which hasn't been great this year. So I like the lefties a lot there, and I think you could even consider Brandon Phillips in addition to Matt Kemp righties, just because he's been so hot lately.
Josh, what about you? Braves here, Pirates. Some people may look at this and want a game stack. I don't know how often I actually do that, but what's your take on the two lineups?
Well, Ben hit it on the nose. R.A. Dickey is like a box of chocolates. Never know what you're going to get, and it's true, man. I'm the last guy who's gonna act like I'm a genius because I usually just play chalk and attempt to double my money every night. I don't try to be smarter than everyone else in the room, but I was talking to a couple of my RotoCurve buddies, and they were all over Ryan Zimmerman on Friday because he mashes knuckleballers, and I don't know. It's way deeper than game logs, but I believe in game logs.
Yeah, he's the second best hitter against knuckleballers in baseball.
Yeah, Zimmerman hadn't done dick for 2 weeks, and I was like, well, I don't want to go there. And then I was looking at Daniel Murphy, who's just ripping up everything, and someone says, well, Daniel Murphy hasn't faced a knuckleballer since 2011. I was like, well, look at it this way. Who was more dedicated to hitting than Daniel Murphy? who was more obsessed with hitting baseballs than the guy shows up at the ballpark at like 6 o'clock every morning. I was like, I guarantee you all week he's had people throwing him knuckleballs. He can't wait to face a knuckleballer.
Right.
And sure enough, he had a double. He had a home run in the 5th inning, and he turned out nice. So, but it's just so hard with this guy. You know, a couple of guys will get him, but it's so hard to predict, and we saw that with knuckleball killer Ryan Zimmerman. He had 0 points in that game. So I'm not going out of my way to get on Pirates. I love Josh Bell. I could see he's a very young player, so I could see the veteran R.A. Dickey being tricky with him. Not really on him. Is Andrew McCutchen just broken? Is he just never going to come back to his old form?
I don't know, man. I'm not really sure what happened with him. And losing Marte doesn't help just because the protection just isn't the same. Well, one thing that I did notice is I think of all people on this team, I would be considerate of Adam Frazier, especially if he stays in that leadoff spot. I think for that price in the outfield at a leadoff spot with someone who's been getting so many hits lately, you know, in let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. His multi-hit games in his last 6 games, with 3 of those being 3-hitters. So he's hitting the ball really well against Dickey. You know, Dickey's going to try to challenge him, but hopefully, you know, he's someone who can get on base. If there is anyone I would be considering here, it would be Frazier. But yeah, like you were saying, even in that example of Zimmerman and Murphy, like, it's still a knuckleball that's coming at you. So yeah, Zimmerman's been great against him, but at the same time, like, you're going to have some guys who just completely whiff, and you're going to have some guys who swing and just happen to make contact. And that's what happens with knuckleballs. And if you don't know too much about knuckleball pitchers, I definitely suggest watching the documentary called Knuckleball. It's awesome. And it goes to a lot of the guys who have pitched knuckleballs throughout the years. And one last bit real quick is one thing that we've seen just through the course of me studying DFS for a few years. I've seen articles written about it. When wind is blowing in, it actually helps knuckleballers. No, sorry, when wind is blowing out, it actually helps knuckleballers. So I think, you know, it's not something that you would normally think or consider. It's counterintuitive, but if you see wind blowing out and there's a knuckleballer on the mound, I would lean more towards him than away.
Yeah, when it's high, let it fly. When it's low, let it go. I think that's the rule of thumb with knuckleballs. But
that's an interesting tidbit there, Ben.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, this Blue Jays Brewers game, rain's expected here. You got an interesting pitching matchup with Joe Biagini, who just got lit up by the Braves. Another bullpen guy that they put in the rotation because they felt like they had to with some of the injuries. You know, he did have a couple starts before that he was okay, but the Blue Jays implied run total is 4.4. The Brewers 4.7. Jimmy Nelson starting for the Brewers. I don't think I've rostered him all year long. I don't know if it's the spot you're necessarily going to look at it, but the bottom of the Blue Jays lineup has been a little wanting, especially, I mean, Pilar was out with a suspension. He's obviously back now. Ezekiel Carrera, you'd expect him to be in the lineup, but Ryan Goings, Darwin Barney at the bottom of the lineup. They're still waiting on Donaldson and, of course, Troy Tulowitzki to get healthy, but the bottom of their lineup's been pretty weak. Ben, what's your thoughts on the Brewers and the Blue Jays? And, oh, by the way, Eric Thames is back again, so after he spent a little time out.
I mean, whenever someone mentions anything with Toronto now, all I can think of is Justin Smoke. This guy has just been absolutely on fire.
Well, remember, they're in the National League ballpark, so they got to figure out, are they batting Morales or Smoke? Can they force one of them to play somewhere else, you know, if they want to get the bat in the lineup?
Smoke can actually field. He plays first base and a little bit of outfield. I wouldn't put Kendrys Morales in the field if I was John.
Yeah, I would go with Smoke regardless if I was the manager there, just because he's a better fit. And how hot he's been. He's basically kind of putting up the numbers that Zimmerman was putting up at one point. A little bit more watered down, you know, but 18, 12, 22, 15, 37, 28. You know, this guy's just been on fire, hitting home runs like it's his job, like it is, which it is. But yeah, man, I mean, I wouldn't use either of these pitchers, like not even considering either one of them. I'm not going to be on Eric Thames, you mentioned, but for me, there's I can consider a few of the guys from Toronto. I think if Carrera's in there, if Goins is in there, a few of the lefties, Smoke is in there. Even Batista's been hitting well lately. 3 multi-hits in his last 4 games. So I'm on a few of those guys from Toronto. I'm on, maybe Villar and Travis Shaw from Milwaukee, and probably not too much else there, even though they have a decent total.
Josh, where are you looking in this matchup with Brewers and Jays?
I have a little bit of interest in Jimmy Nelson. This Toronto lineup just doesn't intimidate me. Is that a park downgrade going from Toronto to Milwaukee, or are they about the same?
Let me check right now.
You know what? Offhand, I would sit here. Sorry, I'm getting too close.
It's a little bit of an upgrade for Toronto.
Over Toronto? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was hoping to be a little bit of a downgrade. So people say that Rogers Center is the, Canadian Coors Field, which isn't.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely both really good hitters parks. So I'm just splitting hairs with a couple of difference in fractional points.
Okay, cool. No, so it's both the same. But Jimmy, even he's been decent at home. Man, there are just Jimmy Nelson shut down Boston in this same park 2 weeks ago. 48 FanDuel points. He struck out 8 over 7 innings and got the win. Man, I just throw him in there. I mean, I may have to. I'm all about that single lineup life. I may have to do a few tomorrow because I'm loving Jimmy Nelson, guys. I'm loving German Marquez. I'm loving Shoemaker. And I even like Chacin. So, man. So I hear you on Smoke. I'll dig into the numbers a little bit more, but unless something really, really pops for me, I believe in Jimmy Nelson. He was decent last year. God knows Milwaukee Brewers need an ace. I think he can do that for him. And then be a genie. I feel like I don't want to sound like a broken record. I've said this 10 times tonight, but I don't want to play him. I really don't want to play hitters against him. I want to play Diamondbacks tomorrow. I want to play Twins tomorrow. I want to play Mariners tomorrow. I don't really want to play Brewers against be a genie. So.
All right. Let's move on to this Tigers-Astros game because Jordan Zimmerman's been a fried turd in my opinion. That guy just signed a $100 million deal, and he's last year started off well enough, and then this year he's just been stinking up the joint. He's down, looking at 5.6K, I believe. The implied run total for Detroit, 3.5. For the Astros, one of the higher ones on the slate at 5.1. Lance McCullers, huge K upside, probably going to be one of the favorite pitchers tomorrow. Anybody here looking at an Astros stack possibly? Do you like anybody from the Tigers? It was something last night when we were talking about, the Tigers coming in that to today's slate that it was kind of weird seeing their run total against a guy like Brad Peacock was so low. And Peacock was on a pitch count and got pulled early today. But, Ben, Astros almost a 2-1 favorite here. Where are you looking for some value in this game?
Well, one of the things that we discussed last time was Jordan Zimmerman, the fact that he just is pitching pretty awful. Gave up 2 home runs. It was a very high total in that game, and you're seeing the same thing on the Houston side again with a total over 5. So I think that you can really attack Jordan Zimmerman. He's just getting hit hard by both lefties and righties, but mostly by lefties. His whip is 1.5, more than 1.5 for righties and lefties this season, and he's just not striking anybody out. So I'm all over Houston tomorrow. I like Reddick, Altuve. I'd like to see a little bit more from Springer before I use him again. Correa is someone that you can always use for home run and steal upside, and then also Carlos Beltran as maybe a potential GPP play, just if I'm looking for a home run. But I like Reddick, Altuve, and Correa on the Houston side. And I think you can use Lance McCullers. He should be pretty popular. I'm more scared to pitch a lefty against Detroit. That's a tough one.
Right-handed, basically.
Huh?
their entire lineup's right-handed. I mean, they could throw Tyler Collins in there, and then you have V-Mart, who's a switch hitter. But other than that, everybody else is right-handed.
Yeah, I definitely like McCullers a lot. The only thing I'm worried about is just there's a couple of guys who can just hit a home, solo shot or two, get like 2 or 3 runs on the board. But yeah, I like McCullers. His K upside's great. He hasn't been getting hit hard this year. He's had a ground ball rate of about 60, which is insane in terms of numbers. The one thing is his home run per fly ball this year has been 36%. So he's given up mostly home runs to righties, which makes me a little bit nerve-wracking. But I think he could definitely limit them. He should be pretty popular. So I like the Houston side. And if you are going to use anybody from Detroit, I think you can't avoid how well JD Martinez has been hitting lately. So I like JD Martinez on the other side. I wish Victor Martinez was a little bit cheaper. I would consider him, but that's about it for me. That's really what I feel about the game.
Yeah, the other left-handed bat I forgot about was Alex Avila, he's been crushing the ball. I mean, he's one of the highest priced catchers right now on FanDuel. And maybe that's a route you look at. Josh, give me your thoughts on the Astros. By the way, I just looked and saw who was pitching for the White Sox against the Diamondbacks, so now I know why you're on the Diamondbacks. But you liking any of these Astros?
Yeah, can we just skip forward to the Diamondbacks and call it a night? I'm just kidding. No, Ben made some good points as he typically does. Lance matches up well with Detroit, but a couple concerns for me here. I understand. I understand that Detroit can only throw 2 or 3 lefties at him. I know that he matches up well. I'm a little bad taste in my mouth. I was all over Lance against Miami, and he barely got out of the first inning, man. I mean, he was at 35 pitches through the first inning, calmed down a little bit, only struck 3 guys out in that game, got lucky, made it 6 innings, got the win, but what is it? 37 FanDuel points when we've been seeing more like 49, 51 FanDuel points out of this year. He had a 54 burger a few games ago. I'm sure you guys remember that. So here we have a Detroit team that's finally heating up, right? The Martinez brothers. JD's one of the hottest hitters in baseball right now. I'm not sure I want to play Lance in a hitter's ballpark. I mean, it's going to be hot, right? It's Texas in late May. It's probably going to be hot. In Houston, a Tigers team that's heating up. I still like my guys, Shoemaker, German, Jimmy Nelson, others more. So on the other side of the ball, it is my brain just stopped working there for a second. Houston, Jordan Zimmerman. That guy's he's not gonna make it out of Detroit alive. I mean, I try to follow every beat writer on Twitter. Do a quick teachable moment. If you play baseball DFS, you need to follow every beat writer for every baseball team. Right?
And create lists of all the people that you like to follow. So when you go to that list, it's just a list of those specific people. So you could do a beat writer list, and you see all the beat writers that you've followed and you put in that list, and it's a quick reference. I do that a lot for basketball. We're looking at late scratches and stuff.
Now there is a difference between beat writers and reporters. I don't follow reporters. A lot of reporters don't even go to the game. They're literally, while you're sitting on your couch watching the game, they're sitting on their couch watching the game, tweeting about it. The beat writers travel with the team. They hang out with the team. They're in the locker room with naked baseball players. These guys eat, live, breathe the Houston Astros, the New York Yankees, and that is your inside voice. So I just say that when I first started out, I just followed anyone who said that they reported on anything, and then I quickly found that was just a whole bunch of noise in my Twitter timeline. So follow beat reporters. With that being said, the beat reporters they're just crucifying Zimmerman. They're like, this guy signs his whopping contract and then just does nothing. So going into a hitter's ballpark in Houston against one of the top 2 or 3 offenses in all of baseball. I mean, I'd say Arizona and Houston are the top 2 offenses in the game right now. I could see Zimmerman just getting rocked. So I have some interest in Houston. Altuve continues to be a great cash play. Correa's heating up. Evan Gaddis, if you want to spend up a little bit at catcher. Springer's always got pop. I would have some interest in the Houston offense batters for this game.
And real quick, Jeremy, just before we move on, because I know we got to get moving, I just wanted to make 2 quick points. One is for the Twitter beat writers, all you have to do is go on Google and just search like Yankees beat writer, Astros beat writer, and then just their Twitter will come up and you could follow them there. And another thing, I just wanted to point this out just for a little advanced strategy. When you're looking at the Vegas lines and you see that a team is a very heavy favorite, like Houston, for instance, they're a -200. That's not a -200 that Lance McCullers is going to get the win. That's a -200 that Houston is going to win the game. So just because they're a very high favorite doesn't mean that Vegas is saying McCullers is going to do really well. It's just saying that they have a very high chance to win that game. So don't make that the backbone of your research, just saying, oh, well, he's a big favorite, so let me choose him. It's not him being the favorite. It's the team being the favorite.
Good stuff. What I just realized, and I think I do this once a podcast, that I missed out on Ben's Indians and skipped right over that game as they're hosting.
I missed that.
Yeah, they're playing the Reds. I don't know how you guys feel. Carlos Carrasco left the game early last time. He was getting knocked around, but he had some issues with his arm. For me, I'm going to take a step back and watch him at least pitch once and get through it, because I hate to have some money involved in a player like that and see him get pulled early. I don't know if you ever look at things like that. You can give me your thoughts. Indians are a heavy favorite on the road against Amir Garrett. We know they can put up runs in bunches. Speaking of the Indians, the Reds can as well. Ben, I know you like Cleveland. You stacking them up? Do you like anybody from the Reds here?
The one thing I always say is I stack Cleveland and I don't take pitchers against them. So I'll definitely be on them tomorrow. I'm basically always on them. And the one thing that's interesting about Cleveland is that whenever they're high owned, that's when they kind of don't do as much for people. And whenever they're low owned, and I always have them anyway, that's when they usually do well. Being in Cincinnati ballpark, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are on other teams and other games, and this is a good opportunity to pick some of the Cleveland bats. Yan Gomes is pretty good against lefties. Lindor, Ramirez, E5. So you can pick them. They have a lot of switch hitters. I'll be on them just because I love being on them. They're in a great hitter's ballpark. I'm not going to be on Carrasco. Just because I've seen Cincinnati do some real damage at home against righties, and with that injury news, it's not something that I'm looking into. But yeah, I always love Cleveland, and Jeremy, I think that this is like your trademark, like skipping over a game. I think we're gonna have to like build that into your.
I've done almost every single podcast where I'm looking at it saying there's only 3 games left. I don't remember talking about Carrasco and the Indians, but what the hell's wrong with me? Josh,
maybe I always leave one game on the table. Conn.
Yeah, there you go. That's nice.
I think Josh's first time on the podcast, he called me. He says, "Hey, are we going to talk about this game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just skipped over it."
Yeah, sure. If you want to, I mean, yeah, might as well.
That's it's a good contrarian strategy. Is just leave a game on the table. No one else, no other podcast does it.
It's the contrarian play.
Exactly.
And just this is something I want to start doing a little bit more often, since this is more of the way that I play. Moving into these last 3 games, this is most likely going to be a 3-game slate. So when we break this down, I'm going to analyze it as if there's only 3 games and not even talk about the earlier slate. So I'm going to try and look at a little bit of ownership and just talk about who I might play just using that slate. I think it adds just a little bit of a different edge there, and for people to follow along. So, Josh, you talk about, your main slate, and I'll go about it as a late slate.
So let me just ask you this. Are you saying that in the future you will just we'll cover all the games, but you'll say, okay, we're in the late part now, or we just will.
I'd like to start doing that a little bit more since that's the way I play anyway. I wanted to do it tonight, but they were mostly all the games were the 7 o'clock, 7:10 games, so it's hard to do that. But yeah, like when we get to a part in the slate where there's 3 8:30 games or something like that, I'll be like, all right, I'm going to be looking at this as an express slate, and because that's the way I'm going to be playing it tomorrow anyway. And I know you love the main, so I think adding, analyzing the players themselves, but adding a different perspective to the way that you're analyzing, I think that's going to be really interesting to do.
Okay.
Josh, your take on the Reds and Indians?
Yeah, off of Carrasco, the Reds remind me kind of the Braves last year. Crappy team, but they're just pesky. The Braves, not so much without Freddie Freeman, but Cincinnati's just a pesky team. They're not going to win many games, but Votto's going to be a pain in the ass. Billy Hamilton, Duvall, Schebler. They're just they're not. They're just going to be a hard team to throw up a really good fantasy game against. So off of Carrasco, I'm not a huge Carrasco fan anyway, and then you've got injuries. So I won't be on Cincinnati though really either. And then I do have some interest in Cleveland. Amir Garrett is bad. What's his? Everyone was hot on him. Well, he used to be a football player or a soccer player or something. And what other sport did he play?
I think he's a football player.
Ballet or synchronized swimming. He did something, and now he's a baseball. And he just came out like a house on fire. 40 FanDuel points, 55 FanDuel points, 12 strikeouts. -14 fantasy points the next game, and he just hasn't been the same. So the Cubs blew him up. Granted, it was like tornado blowing out to right center field, but
he was a basketball player. That's what it was.
Yeah, man, he's 6'6". He's a big boy.
John's he played, I think.
What college?
He played at St. John's in Queens by me.
Well, there you go. There you go. All right, so he's obviously got some talent. He's not quite ready to be an ace, but he flashed potential. But man, when he's bad, he's really bad. So I see the interest in Cleveland, but I'd still probably prefer my Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are what the Indians are to Ben for me. So I still love my Diamondbacks and Mariners and Twins more, but I see the case for Indians.
Well, let's get to the Diamondbacks and help Josh with his DFS boner here. The Diamondbacks implied run total.
I want to hear Josh just completely go nuts over Arizona.
Their implied run total 6.2. Patrick Corbin.
It's gonna be over 10 by lock time tomorrow.
Wow. Dylan Covey, who's a
17 implied run total.
Dylan Covey's a Rule 5 pitcher that they got to keep on the roster all year long. So as bad as the White Sox have been and as bad as Dylan Covey's been, I think they're going to keep trotting him out there in some fashion. Tell me what you like first, Ben. We'll start with you, and then we'll let Josh get his rocks off here with his Diamondbacks. Where are you looking between these two teams?
All right. Well, the first thing that you have to note is Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, I'm not even thinking of any of the pitchers in this game at all. For me, it starts with the batters, and like Josh said, Arizona is going to be popular, and for me on this slate, this is going to be a 3-game slate. You're going to have to find a way to fit Kershaw or fade him, and I don't think I see myself fading him. His price is $12.6K. That's that's still kind of within reach. I think you'll have some spots to pay down a little bit with Oakland, and it's hard for me to say, but this is how I look at the slates in general. They're gonna be high owned, and you have Gregor Blanco at 2.4. I think he'll be interesting. I think that's a good salary saver. When you're looking at Covey, he has a 4 walks per 9. He just walks a lot of people. He has really bad control. So this is a very stackable game. I think, I've been on the Sox a lot lately, the White Sox. They won me a lot of money the other night with Avisel Garcia going off. I also had Melky Cabrera and Jose Abreu. So I really love that that top four or the 2 through 5 stack there with Yomer Sanchez or Lurie Garcia. So this is a game that, I would love to just stack up the game itself in the late slate, but I wouldn't be able to fit Kershaw that way. So it seems like the way that I'll attack this slate in general with, before we get to the other games, of course, is I'll be looking for a Kershaw and see if I could do any team stacks, but I'll probably be doing a couple of mini stacks and one-offs, or I'm going to find a pitcher that I like looking through here and then just do complete game stacks. So Arizona is going to be the chalkiest just because, the run total, but you're going to see people trying to fit Kershaw in. So you're going to have a lot of the cheaper guys like Jed Lowry have some big ownership to them.
All right, Josh, you're up, man. Diamondbacks, where are we going?
Why did we even talk about any of the other games when we've got the greatest offense in the history of baseball against?
Geez.
They're gonna. By the time the season's over, no one's gonna remember the 48 Yankees or whoever. What's the greatest team? I'm literally just like trolling Ben right now.
This is hyperbole right here.
Just like try to get Ben to have a nervous breakdown. This is what.
Yeah, you're filling your own tank up with gas.
Funny story, and I know that we're trying to move, but so this is probably. I've had some really fun DFS moments, but probably my favorite baseball moment ever was day slate Wednesday, right? I thank God for late swap because I had
You're the Tampa Bay catcher, right? And you switched, or was it the other way?
Yeah, and something happened where my catcher wasn't starting and Arizona ran out a weird lineup. So I late swapped
and had with Herman?
Yeah, I late swapped Herman in, which I wouldn't have done because that left money on the table, and I never leave money on the table. So anyway, I got Herman into my lineup, and I also had Lamb, and I think I had a full Diamondback stack. And Lamb hit a home run. Goldie had a couple singles and a stolen base, so he was all right. And then I went into extra innings, okay? And so the Wednesday 7:05 slate had already started, right? So this game is in like the bottom of the 12th. All the other games are long done. In fact, we're into the night slate. And Chris Herman, greatest catcher ever, comes up to bat leading off the 12th and just sends a bomb about 20 rows deep. So not only did the Diamondbacks walk off, the Chauvin one walked off because that was the last pitch of the slate. And I went from like making 6,000 to making 12,000 one swing of the bat. So that was fun.
That's awesome. Bro, that's absolutely hysterical because I had the same exact thing happen to me on that exact slate.
Really?
Yeah, I'm about to show you it right now. Actually,
you did not. We actually talk a lot, and you haven't told me this yet. So cool.
Yeah. I played the early slate, and then I went into work, and I was just looking at my lineups, and what happened with me, and this is taking a little bit longer to get through than we should have, but I had Rene Rivera in everywhere, and he was ruled out. And then I distinctly remember this. I went to Herman. He was bare minimum price. It was either him or Plawecki from the Mets, and I left money on the table, which I rarely ever do with Herman. And here, let me show you right now if you guys can see. If you look at my lineup, I switched to Herman in both of them, and I ended up placing pretty high in the slam here. I came in 10th because late Herman home run. I had him in both teams. So I won 225 here, 50 there, and that was not all because of him, but as you can tell, like I didn't have too much Arizona that day, except for I swapped him in. Yeah. He was the highest scoring batter on my team.
Dickerson was in my lineup too, and Kipnis was in my lineup.
Well,
And I was running around, so I set my lineup, and then I ran around and did errands. I think I went out to a happy hour or something, and I came back, made my lineups for night slate, right? Did premium chat for RotoCurve, and I was like, oh my gosh, this Arizona game is still going. And right then, the Cleveland game was ending, and Jason Kipnis lifted a bomb to center field, and Kevin Kiermaier robbed him, and I was like, I just lost it because that was
to end the game, right?
To end the game.
Yeah.
And so I'm like way down in the dumps. So I felt like, there must be like daily fantasy baseball gods because they saw the Kipnis home run taken away from us. They give and they take away. The gods give and they take away. So I literally was robbed of a Kipnis home run and then got a Herman home run in the bottom of the 12th inning that never should have happened. So
right. Yeah, like my ROI didn't increase the way yours did in the thousands, but I went from winning like 200 to winning like 800 with just that one home run. So for me, having like $60 in, that was awesome.
That was obviously the money was fun, but it was a really cool feeling. It was like you were personally walking off. I wanted to like, I don't know, give myself like a Gatorade shower or something.
I was at work and I started screaming and everyone's like, what's going on? I'm like, walk off home run. Like we're all watching the TV, Mets in Arizona, and all I work in a restaurant and everyone's looking at me like, why are you celebrating a walk off by Arizona? Like everyone there's Mets fans. I'm screaming like, let's go Herman, and everyone's like, who is Herman?
Yeah.
They have no idea about DFS life.
Yeah, it was I think that's the first time something like that has ever happened to me, like a walk off. But
I'm sorry, Jeremy.
That's so
you guys and your winning stories. I just got losers over here. Great.
Yeah, we should probably move on, Josh.
Yeah, well, I haven't even. So let me run down. I mean, Goldie, he's getting expensive, man. But 4,700. But I'm telling you, all these pitchers that I like are in the like 7,000 and 8,000. So I could totally fit Goldie in. It was 100 degrees. It was over 100 degrees at first pitch in Phoenix tonight, and the roof was open. And
same tomorrow.
It should be the same tomorrow. And I don't really care about ownership. So many people just geek out about, oh, is he 25% owned? Or are we talking more like 7% owned? Like, I just play guys that are in good spots. If everyone else is on them, cool. If not. But obviously, I would rather they weren't super high owned. And Arizona burned a lot of people today. Jake Lamb was like 40% owned. Mm-hmm. He didn't do nothing. So that's fine. This Arizona offense has been rolling. They were due for a rough game, but they still won the game 5-1, and they had like a bad game. So I think that people will not be on them so much tomorrow, and that's fine. I'll be all in on them. Jeremy, I know you just despise the guy. Can you give us a quick breakdown on this awful pitcher?
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Covey, I don't despise him, but I've just watched here locally Baltimore do it. You take a Rule 5 guy, you got to keep him on your roster for the entire year, and there's no way around it. So when you do it with the pitcher, unless you put him in the bullpen and you put him in when you're up big, down big, whatever it may be, but that's not what this kid is. He's a starter. They wanted to give him every opportunity with Giolito being down in the minors, some of the injuries they've had. So Covey gets tossed right into the starting rotation, and he's just been, even when things are going good, and he has like 4 good innings, it's coming. In the 5th inning, he's going to walk 2 and give up a 3-run bomb.
I like to hear.
Yeah, he's done it like clockwork. And he actually had, it was either his last start or the start before, he looked okay for about 5 innings and then came out. And I think he ended up giving up 4 and 5 or 6 innings, whatever it was. But that was a reasonable start for him. And it's not like the White Sox are bringing out the world's best bullpen either. If he doesn't even get, through 4, 5, 6 innings. So Arizona's in a great spot.
There you go. So if I was to run through, I can play 4 on FanDuel. I can play 5 on fantasy drafts. I'm looking at Goldschmidt, obviously. Drury. I wrote this up for my article, Chauvin's Choices on RotoCurve today. Drury's WOBA against right-handed pitching is 214 on the road and 456 at home. I know it's chase, where the ball flies swifter and farther and longer and faster and deeper, and pop outs turn into home runs. But have you ever heard of a more drastic home road split? He jumps from 214 to like 460.
I think that's a tough one to say, because you're getting so specific with not only just home and away, but also versus hand. So I think that's something you need to be a little bit wary of. But yeah, man, he just this year itself, he has a 136 WRC plus versus righties and a 43 versus lefties. So, as a righty, that's not what you would expect. But yeah, he's obviously a reverse splits hitter. He has 3 home runs versus righties this year, where he has 1 versus lefties. Obviously, he faces more righties, but the WRC plus really tells a story and paints a picture. And he's better against righties. And that's something I honestly didn't even realize until you mentioned it. 391 WOBA this year versus righties, 531 slugging, 204 ISO. So yeah, man, I think that's super interesting. And at 2,600, I'm definitely going to make it a point to fit him in some of my late lineups.
This is what I'm talking about. I'm already getting excited making this FanDuel lineup now. So I like 3 or 4 pitchers that are in the 8K range. I don't think I need to go up to Kershaw. So I already have some nice money to spend on hitters, right? And I can get Drury for 26. I can get Blanco, the leadoff man in the best offense in the history of baseball. I can get him for 2,400. 2,400 for a leadoff hitter. David Peralta, he's way too cheap at 3,300, and I'll just spend up for Goldie. So there you go, Goldie, Drury, Peralta, Blanco. If I do 2 lineups, I might mix Lamb in there, but there you go, man. What else do you need?
Yeah, Peralta 6 hits in his last 2 games.
Crazy.
One or two bombs. He can do it all.
Hey, Ben, I almost wish that the Arizona game was the one I forgot to mention. We just spent 30 minutes on the back and right side.
Well, we knew we were going to have to. Yeah, this is taking a little longer than we usually do it, but
we got 2 games left, and it sounded like you liked some of the A's players, so I want to get to this game. Oakland's a small favorite over the Miami Marlins. It's Jose Urena versus Jesse Hahn. Both are low-price pitchers. Vegas has a implied run total for the Marlins at 3.9, and for the A's at 4.2. Who you liking here, Ben? It sounded like you were talking about a couple of the A's cheap bats.
Jeremy, do you like that? We just let you get a word in?
Yeah.
No, therefore, Jeremy.
Yeah, man, I like the Oakland bats. Our sheets are super high on them tomorrow, and one thing that me and CG have noticed throughout this year, at least, whenever the sheets really like Oakland, they do put up a decent amount of runs. One of the things that we've seen about Urena, he just doesn't get through 4 innings. Like, the guy just comes out of the game. He doesn't strike people out. His xFIP is super high. He's a fly ball pitcher. Hasn't given up many home runs, but we all know that when you're a super fly ball pitcher and you're getting hit really hard and not giving up home runs, you're getting some home run regression. One thing that's super, super interesting, and I kind of called FanDuel out about it last week, was they always have like 3 second basemen that are eligible for Oakland to play. You always have Rosales, Pinder, and Lowry. And there was one game that 3 of them hit a home run or something, or like one hit, I think one had a double dong and Lowry had another home run or something like that. Like, it's just crazy. But Pinder, man, this guy, it's crazy. I was just looking at his numbers, and he's definitely someone to consider. And I think that you can't really look away from what he's been doing this year against righties. 23 at bats. He has a 2.361 WRC plus with 4 home runs, 4 walks, and he's just hitting the ball 50%. That's really, really hard. Now, granted, that's a smaller sample size, but this guy's just been crushing righties. I'd probably prefer to go to Lowry just because, 2,300, and he's been on a roll too with 2 home runs in his last 4 games. But man, like I have a serious problem in DFS when you have multiple guys at the same position who are all playing in the same game. Like, that's just a pet peeve of mine. But yeah, I like Lowry and Pinder. So I guess on DraftKings you could play both of them. Chris Davis and a righty on righty matchup versus Urena, who should be giving up home runs. I think like I said with Santiago that one day versus Cleveland, I think you're going to see at least 2 home runs hit off Urena tomorrow. So I like Lowry. I like Chris Davis. I like Yonder Alonso if he's healthy. I like Vogt. I like some of these guys, man, and the prices. You know, they're basically all 3K or less besides Chris Davis. On the other side, I would be interested in maybe Yelich, Bohr, and this new guy JT Riddle, who had a monster game, and he's put up at least 3 points in 3 of his last 4. A lefty at almost min price. Yeah. So I could definitely see some value from Oakland, 1 or 2 of the Miami guys, and that'll be a way to fit in some of fit in Kershaw on the later slate if you needed to.
Josh, you on any of the A's or Marlins?
Yeah, where does Pinder kid come from? I know that we're running over on this podcast, but I would love to know if he was a high draft pick. I don't super get into farm systems because I'm not really a season-long guy. I know that season-long guys are like they know guys that play season-long and DFS when like a Nomar Mazara comes out of nowhere last year. Those guys knew about him. You know, they've known about him for a while. I think this Pinder guy just came out of nowhere, where he's got 3 home runs in the last 4 games. There's 3 second basemen I'm looking at really hard right now. They're all on the same price range. Pinder at 3, Schimpf at 2.9, and Drury at 2.6. Those guys are all in great spots. Urena doesn't really get rocked, but he's good for a home run or 2 a game. So there you go. As far as taking guys against Jesse Hahn, I just don't really love anyone. I never play the Marlins in DFS until Stanton and Ozuna decide to be good at baseball again.
Had 3 doubles the other night.
Did he? Yeah. Jesse Hahn is a slightly above average pitcher, so I'm not going out of my way to get Marlins on my team tomorrow night.
All right, let's move on.
I don't think you need to go out of your way. For me, I have to consider them a little bit more for that late slate, that 3-gamer.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's the reason why I'm even interested in 1 or 2 of them. You know, JT Riddle at 2.4. It's at least for me, it'll be hard to really try and use anyone else on that slate at shortstop besides him at 2.4. I wouldn't really want to go up to Seager at 3.6, but I would consider Diaz from St. Louis. We can get to that next.
Yeah, I'm going to get ready to bring that game up right now. It's the last game, and you've been talking about it. Kershaw's on this slate, so for cash, it's a plug and play and try to find some bats for the most part. I mean, there are some decent pitchers that you can look at, but you know that's the cream of the crop. Kershaw can definitely mow them down. And Lance Lynn for the opposite side. I always love seeing this. The implied run total for the Cardinals is 2.5 runs.
Mm-hmm.
For the Dodgers, it's 4.1. Lance Lynn, I've seen him. You know, it's kind of crazy because like it doesn't shock me to see him go out and kind of get through his 6 innings. But there have been these times where he just strings hits together. He's hitting a lot of bats, and you know, it's not a guy that I play often. But give me your thought. You brought up a couple. You brought up Adonis Diaz as a possible play for you. Do you like any Cardinals, Dodgers here?
All right. Well, one of the things about this is FanDuel is obviously, tweaking the prices when guys play Kershaw. Last time it was San Francisco, and they were all 1.5K. And I made it a point to say that I think it's absolutely ridiculous that they did that. I think it's crazy to make a batter 1.5K. Like Kershaw is the best of the best. He's elite. They have a good bullpen, but at the same time, these baseball players are human. I had Buster Posey and Nunez on a late slate versus Kershaw, both 1.5K. Posey got 6 points, and Nunez hit a home run off the bullpen at 1.5K, and I put them against Kershaw. So with that said, I would do the same thing on a late slate with the Cardinals. So I'm obviously playing Kershaw. I think he's going to shut them down. I think he has potential for 45 points or so, or maybe more, but that's probably what I would expect from him, and he'll be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate. But you could also use someone like a Dexter Fowler at 1.6 in the outfield. He can get you 6-9 points for 1.6 or whatever. Diaz at 1.7. You know, Kershaw is a lefty. He gives up a home run once in a while. We've seen it happen. And you know, you can get a power hitter to hit a home run off him. It's not ideal, obviously, but I think if I was going to do anything with the Cardinals on this slate, it would probably be Fowler, Gayorko, or Diaz. And I would only use one or two of them max against Kershaw, but that's with using Kershaw in the same lineup. So this is more GPP-ish. You know, I think that the Dodgers will be pretty popular, and I'd rather try and fit some of the Arizona bats in than try and fit some of the Dodgers bats in. But Chase Utley at 2.3K has been a nice play for me all year there. And then besides that, I'm not very high on the Dodgers against Lance Lynn because he is a very serviceable pitcher.
Josh, give me your thoughts. And yeah, I just looked at the pricing; it was kind of crazy. And I know most people are going to play Matt Carpenter against Clayton Kershaw, but seeing him at 1.5 just seems ridiculous.
And they don't do that for any other pitcher, do they? They don't do that for like Scherzer.
No, but
or anybody.
But yeah, I mean, sorry to cut you off, but Eduardo Nunez on a 3-game slate at 1.5K was 2% owned and hit a home run. Like they're gonna do that, and people still aren't going to it. So it's hard for me to say that it's not the right move because, you know, at that price, people should try and use it, but people didn't. So I think FanDuel's just gonna keep doing that until the ownership goes up.
My thing is, and I don't want to. Kershaw used to be in a league of his own. I don't know if he is anymore. I think we're on the – I'm not going to have some crazy hot take like Kershaw's not good anymore, but I think we're on the maybe just very slow downslope of Kershaw's career where he's going to be good for a while. But I saw something on Twitter from a tout who I trust a lot that said Kershaw's like 62nd in swinging strike rate this year. Look that up. He's not mowing people down, and you look at his past couple starts. What did he have? Only like only 5 strikeouts, only 4 strikeouts. Take a look at these. Shoemaker. I mean, there's way more than just game logs, but Shoemaker has way better game logs over the past 3 games than Kershaw does, and he's like $3K cheaper.
Right.
And people are going to play Kershaw, especially in cash, just because of name recognition. I'll play Shoemaker over Kershaw, even in cash, any day.
Well,
wow.
All right. Well, let's
wait. That's quite a hot take. I think that needs to be like written on your tombstone. I would rather play Shoemaker over Kershaw any day in cash.
Well, I meant with their matchups tomorrow and their form. So it's not any day. I'd take him tomorrow. I was just saying I would play Shoemaker over Kershaw in every lineup tomorrow.
Okay, that makes sense.
Fair enough.
Basically, like Chris Sale is comparable to Kershaw now, where, you know, last year
Sale's a better pitcher than Kershaw. Why aren't we making Matt Carpenter $500 against Chris Sale? I mean, Chris Sale's a better pitcher than Kershaw right now.
Right now, yeah.
Why aren't they doing the dynamic pricing for Chris Sale? You know.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see some consistency with their pricing in that regard, for sure. I think they're just dropping the bottom out and adding 100 or 2 to the players.
You can't just do it for Kershaw. Do it for like Scherzer, Kershaw, Sale, those guys.
Or just double the price of all the Diamondback hitters when they face Dylan Covey.
Yeah.
Oh no! Why would you say that?
6K for Goldschmidt.
All right,
this will be my last podcast on Daily RotoSharks. It's been a fun ride.
One thing we like to do is we talk about our favorite stacks. Give me a couple of your favorite stacks for the day, Ben, and then we'll come to you, Josh.
So if I pick one, does that rule out Josh from being able to pick it?
Yeah, he can't take the time.
I still will.
All right, so I like Arizona. I like Arizona. I like Atlanta. I like Boston. Arizona, Atlanta, Boston, Cleveland, and Mets.
All right, Josh.
think I said it a few times. Arizona. I will have 4. I'll allow the max for Arizona. So 4 on FanDuel and all my lineups. 5 on Fantasy Draft and DraftKings and all my lineups. And that's not even a homer thing. I just don't. Covey is a worse pitcher than who did the White Sox roll out tonight? Miguel Gonzalez, who has decent stuff, but
extreme fly ball pitcher in a fly ball part,
and he obviously wasn't great tonight. I don't think he made it out of the 5th inning, so he gave up like all those. I think he gave up 4 runs, and then Goldie got a home run off the bullpen. So, I have a very special love for the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's like they're my child, but I do think this is an elite spot for them. And then the Mariners. I think the Mariners could fly under the radar against the really bad pitcher that they get in Joe Ross, who it seems like his own team doesn't want him. And then I am interested in awful, terrible, very rich, but not good at baseball anymore, Jordan Zimmerman. I'm interested in the Astros against him. So.
Yeah, I like Astros too. I forgot to say it. How many times, Jeremy, real quick before we finish, what do you think the over-under is tomorrow for how many times Josh sees invalid roster, please select players for more than one game on his lineup?
That wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's got to be 8 or 9 times at a minimum.
This isn't even exaggerating. If FanDuel let me, I would play 8 Diamondbacks.
You're sick.
Well, hey, so last time Josh was on with us, we played we picked some pitchers. We went through this whole thing. What we have been doing is just rolling through and taking 2 batters and in like a little snake draft format. I don't know if that's what you guys want to do, if you want to roll that out. And we should kind of hash out something that we do on a regular basis, even if it's different with each, guest host that we have. But that's something for you to think about, Ben. You just want to do the hitters thing to try to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so we'll take 2 hitters. I want Josh to go first because I have no idea where he's going to go with his first pick, what game he'd pick from. But Josh, you go first. Ben, you can go second. I'll go last, and we'll just roll it around.
So we're doing just hitters, right?
Just hitters.
And we get 3 each?
2.
2 each, but you snake it.
Yeah.
Oh, gee. I mean, I got to go chalk with Goldie, I guess.
All right. Ben, you're up.
All right, I'll go Yasmani Tomas.
Staying in the same game. All right, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to stay away from the Diamondbacks so you guys can get as many as you want. I'm going to go Gary Sanchez on a hunch. Call it women's intuition, if you will. And I also like Carlos Correa tomorrow.
I like the Correa call.
Carlos Correa. All right, I'll go with Matt Kemp.
David Peralta.
All right. There you go. All right, we'll have to keep track, see how things are going. Ben, as always, I appreciate you having me here, and it was a lot of fun with Josh and his love for the Diamondbacks. So hopefully you win a birthday GPP or something come tomorrow. But it's been a good time, and I don't know how long this thing was, but I do know we spent half of it on the Diamondbacks. But
yeah, we might have to switch to at least with me and Josh, a day that the next day is going to have less games. Because I think it'll be better if we're able to go through less games and add more to each game. Because going through these big ones is a little bit tough when we know that we're going to talk back and forth.
That could be good. Do you guys do every day?
Yeah, I think we're doing every single weekday.
Okay. Yeah, there could be something to that. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll figure that out.
All right, so it's been at DailyRotoSharks.com. That's the place to go. You heard about all the great deals and everything going on over there. You mentioned it earlier, Ben, and teaming up with a couple other things. So a lot of cool stuff happening at DailyRotoSharks.com. So definitely check it out. Appreciate you guys coming on. It's been the Daily Roto Sharks podcast. We'll be back again tomorrow.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night, guys.
Adios. Keep back stack for the Buckies.